Jarvis Bonnie with your VON Major News Package for today, Tuesday, 6 November 2018. In our lead stories nationally, Canada changes its visa application process for citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, and Prime Minister's office issues statement on economic citizen charged with conspiring to launder billions of dollars. Regionally, murder charge dropped for man in Antigua 20 months after he was charged. Internationally, polls open on East Coast for 2018 U.S. midterm elections. And in sports, Australia loses to South Africa in opening one-day international. We'll have the details to these and other stories after this message.
Different from how you've seen it before.
Another look.
Takes an in-depth look into business, politics, science, technology, religion, and more.
Another look.
Featuring documentaries from the BBC, regional features, and local ones too.
Another look.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, Vaughan.
Welcome back and now on to the national news in detail. Citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis who want to travel to Canada will now be able to submit their applications to visa application centers in Barbados, Trinidad or Guyana. Citizens will also be able to go to any visa application centers in any country they are legally allowed to, or if already legally in the United States, to one of the 135 U.S. application support centers. These are among a number of changes announced by the Government of Canada on Friday, November 2nd. In the statement released on Friday, the Canadian government said it is expanding its worldwide network of visa application centers VACs to make service accessible to applicants. It said that it is expanding its biometrics collection program, which requires fingerprints and a photo. Citizens currently applying for Canadian visas will not be required to provide biometrics at this time. The biometrics requirement goes into effect on December 31st. The Office of the Prime Minister here in St. Kitts and Nevis has issued a statement regarding an economic citizen who, along with his associate, conspired to launder billions of dollars embezzled from One Malaysia Development Berhad 1MD, Malaysian Investment Development Fund, and conspired to violate the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act FCPA by paying bribes to various Malaysian and Abu Dhabi officials. A 3-count criminal indictment was unsealed last Thursday, November 1st, in the federal court in the Eastern District of New York, charging Lotek Joe 36, alias Jolo, and Ng Chong Hoa, 51, alias Roger Ng, with the aforementioned offenses. Mr. Low is understood to be an economic citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis. The statement reads, and I quote, "It has come to the attention of the government of St. Kitts and Nevis that the United States Department of Justice has indicted Malaysian financier Mr. Taek Jolo, also known as Jolo, for conspiring to launder billions of dollars in illegal proceeds and to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in bribes to various Malaysian and Abu Dhabi officials." Jolo became an economic citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis under the Denzel Douglas-led administration in 2011, but has never at any time entered the country. Immigration records indicate that Mr. Jolo has never entered any port in St. Kitts and Nevis, end quote. According to the statement, on June 8, 2018, Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad announced that Malaysia was seeking to arrest the financier who was believed to be residing abroad. The Team Unity-led administration then took the decision to deactivate Mr. Low's SKN passport through Interpol in June of this year. Bullying has been an issue here in communities across the Federation for some time that's actually both among the young and old, but as of recent has become more prevalent in our schools. How gravely is bullying affecting our schools here in Nevis, and how are such behaviors affecting the learning environment? This was the question posed to Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education here at Nevis, Mr. Kevin Barrett, by the VON Newsline.
It's not a cut and dry situation where you could see this happening and this is a direct correlation with bullying and things like that. Of course, it could be very disruptive. It could lead to children feeling very much being taken advantage of, and it affects individuals emotionally, it affects them physically, and it could affect them socially. but it is not to say that it is a problem that is so pervasive that it causes major disruptions on the school or in the school day. It could get to a point where, yes, that we have persons who are really severely affected by it, but we are not seeing, and we don't really have the data to say that it is such a major problem that it is disrupting a whole day of school or classes and things like that.
The Permanent Secretary also explained the efforts being made by the ministry to tackle the problem in schools.
Usually when we have issues like this, it is tackled from a federal level so that we could all move in a concerted way to tackle this problem. And it's not only with bullying, but there are other issues that we prefer when it comes to things like that. It's more of a concerted effort. What I could tell you, though, is that just last month there was an active program in place by the Social Development Department where they went around to the different schools and they would have had people talking on bullying, what it is, how to identify it, how to deal with it. And this is not just for this year. We have been partnering a lot with the Social Development Department and social services to tackle things like those, because it's not only just a problem of a child misbehaving or pushing another child around. Something, it goes much deeper than that, and that is where we try to get the help of professionals in social services and social development to do these things.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education here on Nevis, Mr. Kevin Barrett. What is the Ivor Walters Primary School's reaction to the expansion project? That's a question which was posed to the school's principal about the school's expansion project. Work at the school began in mid-August of this year. Previously, reports have reached the VOA Newsline about the untimeliness of the school's project. However, this media house sought to get the school's perspective, and Principal Janice Whitaker Richards provided this information.
The project is a timely one. I've been here at the school for 5 years. I've been looking at the physical structure of the school and realized that the school really did need some sort of improvement physically, and also that the role of the school has increased due to, I believe, one of the main parts is that there was the Cherry Garden area, and that area feeds into the Ivor Walters Primary. Brownhill seems small, but it's a big enough area. We have Cane Garden, so we really needed an expansion.
When asked what could have been done differently, this was her response.
We did ask for a new structure, and it seemed like it's right now long in coming, which I hope it wouldn't be. We're still keeping our fingers crossed. We appreciate what is there. Knowing that it's wooden is telling us, well, it's not permanent. It means that they're going on to another phase. It's a timely project because we really needed something, well, here and now. Many have heard about the instance where when it rains here, the children have to walk in the rain to go to the bathrooms because the bathrooms are not adjoined to the school, and it's a long way out. So because of that, we really needed something that is enclosed.
Principal of the Ivor Walters Primary School, Mrs. Janice Whitaker Richards. The Ministry of Tourism and the St. Kitts Tourism Authority remain committed to providing a consistently outstanding visitor experience to the sustainable development of the Federation's human, natural and cultural resources. So says Minister of Tourism, the Honourable Lindsay Grant. His comment came in an address to mark Tourism Month observed in the month of November. Minister Grant said this in order to maximize opportunity, prosperity and quality of life for present and future generations.
We are continuing to conduct customer service training for all of our nationals who work on the front lines of the industry, including both traditional and non-traditional service providers, such as the Alarub vendors, destination management companies, servers, bartenders, primate petting, craft vendors, and hair braiders.
According to Minister Grant, the Ministry of Tourism has continued its tourism education programs in schools geared at teaching the principles of the tourism business to the youth.
Having begun with 3 pilot schools, the program has now expanded to include over 360 students in 6 schools, 4 primary schools, 1 secondary school, and 1 technical and vocational school. Our tourism officers work alongside teachers, combining classwork and field trips to various sites and attractions on the island. In addition, we have added etiquette training to the program.
Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Lindsay Grant. And lastly, in our national news segment, closing date for the Culturama 45 slogan contest is fast approaching, and the Culturama Secretariat has been advising persons to submit their entries before November 15, 2018. Based on information from Executive Director of the Culturama Secretariat, Mr. Antonio Abanati-Liburd, so far more than 30 entries have been submitted. Persons who wish to enter the contest can submit their entries directly to the Culturama Secretariat, located at the Cotton Ginnery Mall in Charlestown. Culturama is an annual festival which showcases Nigerian arts and culture beginning in late July and ending in early August. And that's our national news segment. You can visit our website at www.vonradio.com, or you can check us out on Facebook on our social media page at Von Radio and our Von Radio YouTube channel. Regional news comes up next.
That's right. It's that time of the year once again, where your bank, the Bank of Nevis Limited, is offering very low interest rate on brand new vehicles. But that's not all. We are offering a discounted bill of sale, and your insurance payment will be covered. So visit us today or just dial 869-469-5564 and speak to our very experienced lenders. My bank, your bank, our bank, the Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life. Like us on Facebook.
If you wanna go and take a ride with me, we three willing in the four with the goldies. So why do I live this way? Must be the money.
Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back on to the regional news. In Antigua, almost 20 months after he was charged with the murder of his neighbor and family friend Malvern Nigel James of Seaview Farm has been relieved of the burden, the case was dropped in the All Saints Magistrate Court yesterday, November 5th. James, 36, was all smiles in court when he learned from Magistrate Ngayo Emmanuel that the murder case would be discontinued. The accused was charged with killing 51-year-old Glenmore Natty Hughes, who was injured on February 10, 2017 and died a week later. His death was recorded as the second homicide for 2017. Meantime, in Barbados, a local church leader is uneasy that ongoing debates on the legalization of marijuana could open the floodgates to similar discussions about other illicit drugs. Senior pastor of the Sanctuary Empowerment Center, Bishop Dr. Marlon Husbands, remained in firm opposition to those who currently support the legalization of cannabis. While he acknowledged there may be some usefulness from debates about the benefits of medicinal marijuana, he questioned how much further Barbadians would go with the liberalities. A second prisoner who escaped in Guyana last month is now back behind bars, leaving just one more still on the run. Law enforcement officials reported that Dexroy Pollard was recaptured by a public-spirited citizen on the west bank of Demerara. Government also issued a statement and said the Guyana Police Force wishes to publicly commend the individual who assisted in the recapturing of Pollard for his brave and courageous action, which the force notes is testimony that they are gaining the public's trust. Pollard was among 3 inmates who escaped from the Lusignan holding bay on the east coast Demerara on October 15th. Murder-accused Travis Evans, 23, was the first to be recaptured. He was apprehended at the Linden-Soesdijk junction 4 days after the jailbreak. Sodesh Dayal, 23, who was remanded for breaking and entering, larceny and escape from lawful custody, remains on the run. In the wake of the escape, Acting Director of Prisons Gladwin Samuels said it was negligence on the part of the guards that allowed the prisoners to get away. In St. Lucia, on Monday evening, October 29th, Kimberly Williams de Leon, 42, a mother of 2 children aged 9 and 5, and employed as an accountant at the Ministry of Education, was found dead in her home after neighbors heard at least 7 gunshots fired. At a press conference the following day, Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police Dorian O'Brien confirmed the victim is the ex-wife of a serving officer with the same last name attached to the Royal St. Lucia Police Force RSLPF and authorized to carry a firearm. Police Commissioner Severin Moncherry disclosed that Officer De Leon had applied for 100 days vacation leave, which was approved. However, addressing concern about public perception and talk of internal differences on this matter, Police Commissioner Moncherry stated there is no conflict of interest in the police investigating their own. This latest murder has also renewed the attention of extrajudicial killings on the island. Some 7 to 8 years ago, investigations into numerous extrajudicial killings that occurred between 2010 and 2011 during a special police operation dubbed Operation Restore Confidence resulted in a damning report on the RSLPF and the imposition of sanctions by the United States. An extrajudicial killing is the murder of a person by governmental authorities without the sanction of any judicial proceeding or legal process. And lastly, in our regional news segment, news from the British Virgin Islands, local and international planning authorities are projecting that the population of the BVI will exceed 50,000 in the next 20 years. According to Canadian firm Dillon Consulting, who recently conducted a situation analysis on the BVI with the Town and Country Planning Department, the current population of the territory is about 32,000. Reports from local media say the firm is projecting that number to increase to a little more than 35,000 in the year 2020, climb to approximately 42,797 by 2030, then jump to roughly 50,487 by 2040. The analysis is part of a government project dubbed Envision 2040. Chief Planner Greg Adams has described the project as a guide to the territory's development throughout the next 20 years. The Town and Country Planning Department of the Territory is leading the project and collaborating with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Labour. And that's it for our regional news segment. Stay with us for news around the world. Welcome back on to the international news. Americans have begun voting in nationwide elections that are being seen as a referendum on Donald Trump's presidency. Polling stations opened on the East Coast amid a battle by both Republicans and Democrats to take control of the 2 houses of Congress. Congress is the part of the U.S. government which makes the country's laws. The midterm elections come halfway through Mr. Trump's 4 years in office and follow a divisive campaign. Here's more in this report.
If the polls are to be believed, then Republicans are likely to lose the House but keep the Senate. That would make it hard for President Trump to get legislation through, and Democrats would control key, powerful committees that could investigate the administration. Holding on to the Senate, though, would mean the president could get approval for the judges and the cabinet members he wants. All told, there's a lot to play for.
Rihanna is the latest star to officially tell the U.S. president to stop using her music at his political rallies. The Barbadian singer is threatening legal action after her 2008 track Don't Stop the Music was played at Trump's Chutanago rally. Rihanna had her team send an official letter to the White House which reads, "It has come to our attention that President Trump has utilized Rihanna's musical compositions and master recordings, including her hit track Don't Stop the Music, in connection with a number of political events held across the United States." It also says, "As you are or should be aware, Ms. Fenty has not provided her consent to Mr. Trump to use her music. Such use is therefore improper." And a young couple from Texas was killed when a helicopter carrying them away from their own wedding crashed late on Saturday night, according to officials. Will Byler and Bailey Ackerman Byler were both students at Sam Houston State University. Their deaths were first reported by the student newspaper. The crash occurred near Uval, about 85 miles west of San Antonio. On social media, wedding attendees have been posting their condolences in the captions of wedding photos. In a statement, the university's student president said the married couple will always be remembered by their kind hearts and uplifting spirits. The two were married for just over an hour before their helicopter crashed on the Byler family's ranch in southern Texas. And lastly, in our international news segment, more than 200 mass graves containing thousands of bodies have been found in areas of Iraq that were once controlled by the Islamic State IS group, a UN investigation has found. The graves were found in the north and western governorates of Nineveh, Kirkuk, Salahuddin and Anbar. They could contain as many as 12,000 victims, the UN report said. IS seized parts of Iraq in 2014 and imposed brutal rule, commonly killing anyone of whom it disapproved.
Across northern and western Iraq, in what was once Islamic State territory, mass graves have been discovered. From a small pit outside Mosul containing just 8 bodies to a vast sinkhole in Kasfa, which likely contains thousands. The UN is calling for more resources to exhume and preserve the evidence and for more support for families of the missing. At the moment, compounding their grief, they must report their loss to 5 different Iraqi government offices.
And that brings us to the end of our news segment. The latest in sports is next.
Hello?
Betty!
Hi, Joan. I know you're calling to tell me that new arrivals are here at all TDC retail stores, right?
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't wait. I already went to TDC Home and Building Depot and got my Christmas tree decorations and a new stove. Let's go later because I also need some furniture, electronics, and household items. Then we can go to TDC Automotive and the Business Center. I know there are things there that you need to get.
Don't forget we got to go CDS Nevis too, you know?
Oh, yes. Oh, TDC new arrivals are here.
Welcome back and now on to the sports. In cricket, Australia lost a record 7th consecutive one-day international as South Africa cruised to victory by 6 wickets in Perth. In their first international of the home summer, Australia were reduced to 8 for 3 and 66 for 6 before being dismissed by 152 in only 38.1 overs. World Cup holders Australia have now lost 17 of their past 19 ODIs. The scores were as follows: Australia 152 in 38.1 overs, Colton Isle 34, Felokwayo 3 for 33. South Africa 153 for 4 in 29.2 overs, De Kock 47, Stoinis 3 for 16. South Africa won by 6 wickets. In basketball, as the 2018-2019 NBA season continues, a few matches will take place this evening, November 6th. At 8 o'clock, the Atlanta Hawks will go up against the Charlotte Hornets. At 9:30, the Washington Wizards will face the Dallas Mavericks. A little later, at 10 o'clock, the Brooklyn Nets will face the Phoenix Suns, and at 11 o'clock, the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Portland Trail Blazers. In athletics, with just 1 week to go before voting for the 2018 World Athletes of the Year concludes, this year's nominees in the middle and long distance events are as follows: Beatrice Chepchuk, Timothy Cheruiyot, Sifan Hassan, Eliud Kipchoge, Emmanuel Korra, and Caster Semenya. In boxing, Manny Pacquiao says a rematch with Floyd Mayweather is a big possibility as he cannot retire with peace of mind following his 2015 defeat. The Philippine lost to American Mayweather in Las Vegas by unanimous points decision, although he has since regained a version of the world title. The two met in Japan at a concert where they talked about a rematch. I told him I've got the belt and I am a champion, and he said he would get my belt, Pacquiao said. The 2015 fight between the two multi-weight world champions was billed as the fight of the century, but following a tame defeat, which saw Mayweather add the WBO welterweight title to his WBC and WBA titles, Pacquiao said he had been suffering with a shoulder injury. And lastly, in our sports segment, in tennis, Rafael Nadal will miss November's season-ending ATP Finals in London and have surgery on an ankle injury. Nadal withdrew from last month's Paris Masters with an abdominal muscle injury, meaning Novak Djokovic replaced him as world number 1. The Spaniard, 32, said that since he was still suffering with that injury, he would take advantage of the moment and have an operation on his ankle. American John Isner takes Nadal's place at the 8-player event in London. Nadal's absence from London means 14-time Grand Slam champion Djokovic will end the year as the world number 1 for the 5th time in his career. And that's it for sports. The weather is next. Welcome back. The weather tonight will continue to be mostly cloudy with periodic showers and a moderate chance of thunderstorms. The winds are east-northeast to east-southeast and will range between 15 and 28 kilometers per hour or 8 to 15 knots. The sea's wave heights are from 1.2 to 1.8 meters or 46 feet. A caution for small craft operators is in effect. The sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:11 a.m. And that's how we wrap up the major news package for today, Tuesday, 6 November 2018. Before we go, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Nationally, Canada changes its visa application process for citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, and Prime Minister's office issues statement on economic citizen charged with conspiring to launder billions of dollars. Regionally, murder charge dropped for man in Antigua 20 months after he was charged. Internationally, polls open on East Coast for 2018 US midterm elections, and in sports, Australia loses to South Africa in opening one-day international. On behalf of the rest of the news team, I am Jarvis Brown wishing you a pleasant evening.